what we have here is that this is what we do, and you can look at this. I'm not going to go spend a lot of time on it, but basically we're going to assess them. This is the assessment, and it's an online assessment, 59 questions. It answers a lot of questions. We're going to give you a report, and we're going to start the action planning, but it's going to be far more detailed. So I'm going to go through this to show you what you're getting if you go through this program, and we're going to encourage you to do an application. You got to perfect the team. And this is the Sbeta program that we'll be working on. Now, the assessment covers these areas. Basically, it's broken into two things: organizational strategy and culture. And within that, we have 8 key components, 4 in strategy and 4 in culture. Then there are 19 principal elements, 11 of them in strategy and 9 of them in culture. So when we go through this, we're taking a very detailed look at your company. This comes from an organization called Virtual CEO. They're in San Diego. They've been in business since 1995. The authors have written 2 books, one called Strategic Principles and the other one called Mastering Strategy. And this is the outcome of it. And we actually have a way in which you're going to be able to use this. So what does this produce? So let's take a look at it. First thing you get is a report card. And the report card has a number of components on it. This gives you your average score. And you're probably saying, compared to what? The database has more than 4,000 companies on it. So when you get the score back, it tells you how you're doing relative to other people. And one of the challenges that small businesses have, and pardon me for using this, I like to use the term the West Virginia syndrome. And as sad as it is, we have this stereotype about West Virginia, you know, I'm my own grandma. And the point is that we get really insular and start working only inside. And if you work only inside your business, you lose perspective. You don't get a real feel for what's going on. This gives you an instant feel of how you're doing outside, because this is the bottom 10%, this is the mean, these are the top 10%, and this is you. So you get to look at how you're doing in comparison to 4,000 other companies that have done this. Now on the capability side, you notice that there are 2 capabilities. One here is strategy and the other one is organizational culture. So those are things you're strong at. But let me ask you a question. What really causes an organization to stumble and fail? Its strengths or its weaknesses? Both. But I think ultimately what we're trying to help you with is that if you don't understand your strengths and fully utilize them and then are hung up by your weaknesses, compliance is an example, you'll spend 80% of your time doing things that only produce 20% of the results. So the purpose of this is to show you where your weaknesses are. And so they're on the left here, or on the right as you can see, and those are constraints, both in strategy and culture. That's your report card. So where do we go from here? So the next page, this is the fun part. I mean, these guys put a lot of time into this, and this is what's called Quad Red. So as you look at this here, from the bottom to the top is a score. So in other words, people scored on the basis of strongly disagree to strongly agree, a 6-point Likert scale. So this means that, you know, the top here was this one, mission, and the bottom was probably down here. It looks like competitive advantage, an analysis. So what we want to do is that we know that the company is very good at these 2. So do we really want to work on those? We want to keep those moving forward, but we want to start looking at the other ones. So what happens here is that this is a score, and as you look from right to left here, that's the priority. So when you take the analysis, you not only score it, but you say, what are the most significant priorities for our business? And so I get, as an example, I would get your input. But my goal is to get the staff input, and it's also to get the employee input. Why is that important? We know everybody's on the same page. And we did this with you guys last year. And you know, it cuts through the clutter immediately, because basically how many times you've been involved in something and somebody comes up to you and says, this is what we're doing this week. And you're going, well, why didn't anybody ask me? I mean, and please understand, this isn't about ego. This is about, this affects my job. This really changes everything I'm doing, and nobody bothered to ask me. And then you get into this, whatever you say, boss. What have you done with the person's brain? Everybody go with me. You turned it off, right? Click. So the point is that when we do this, all of a sudden they have input. So when we sit down and meet with them, what do we got going on? We got open brains, right? They got a chance to get their input. They got to say what they felt was important. And then we can build on that, particularly if the leader is willing to listen and make changes. Ron and I are working with a couple of clients on this, and it's amazing how we're able to address things. And we did this last year with Veronica's organization, And within a matter of hours, we had a strategic action plan, champions, everybody was working forward. Here's the rub. If the organization changes leadership, as this is going on, what happens to that plan? It crumbles. Well, that happens. So the point is that as long as you're the owner, that's probably not going to happen. So you have more flexibility. All right, so this is called the red zone. These are high priority and low score. It focuses immediately on what is important. That's why this is so valuable. Now we have a comparison, a Spidergram chart, which does the same thing, but this time it compares each of these in terms of your priorities. So what you see here is the priorities going clockwise, and what you see here is the priorities going top to bottom. And it also shows you that the black is you, and it shows you where you feel you're strong and where you're weak in comparison to the other people on the instrument. So it enables you to say, wow, there are areas where we're just as good as world-class companies. But there are others, boy, we got some work to do. And now, when we go into the company, we actually bring out the questions and we actually distribute the details and we say, look, if this question here is here on how you have better customer service, now we create an action item around that. We find out the resources, we look at action items, we establish due dates, we establish champions, and now you got an action plan. And within a matter of hours, we have people moving on stuff, not because I said it's important, it's because they said it's important. That's the joy of this. And it enables us to ask questions. When we get a company that says finance is the #1 priority and it's a low score and they have marketing and sales over here at low priority, I go, well, wait a minute. If you have financial problems, why aren't you selling more? So it enables us to have them, when they think differently about their business, the business they think about changes. That's what we try to do. This is the action plan. Again, when we change the way we think about things, the business we think about changes.